in eastern North Philadelphia, and the neighborhoods of Fairhill and St. Hugh. We focus about 1 square mile within those two neighborhoods, and we have over 20,000 people that live there. I have been with the organization for about 23 years now, but president at 6. And it's really, for me, it's an honor to serve in that capacity since I have been a long-term resident of this community. I'm going to walk you through how we do development in the neighborhood. It's actually funny that Ken started earlier, and he was talking about private developers. I was at an event earlier today, and I was talking to a private developer, and he tells me, hey, I have this building, I want to build subsidized housing. And I said, okay, so, what is it that what are you really thinking about? Oh, about 40, 50 units. And I said, well, and he's like, I want to make money. And I told him, well, you don't make money with subsidized housing. And he's like, what do you mean you don't make money? I'm like, no, you don't make money. You have to break even. And that's why we do it, because it's a mission for the organization. And we're here long-term building affordable housing for families and senior citizens. So that left him a little, he was in a conundrum there. So later this week, I'll have a conversation with him to explain to him, as a nonprofit developer, you really don't make money doing this. It's a mission and a passion as to why you do this in our neighborhoods. So everything we do is based on neighborhood plans. We have gotten pretty good about it. I'm doing neighborhood plans. Right now we're implementing our third 10-year neighborhood plan. Neighborhood planning, it's a great way to engage people in the neighborhood and also to establish priorities for that community and have buy-in. The photo that you see here is it's in the St. Hugh neighborhood. It's what we call the Caribe Development Zone, and it's really a great 6-acre development area where we have multifamily housing for families, senior citizens, open recreational spaces, and also we have a life center that we partner with Mercy Health to be able to provide services to a large low-income elderly residents. The neighborhood plan process. First, we start in what we call an environmental scan. We hire a consultant that really works and puts together all this data that includes demographics, really talking about what are the different age groups in the community, what are the income levels, and what is the changes within that community at that point in time. What are the needs of the neighborhood? Is there high poverty? Is it more of a middle neighborhood? Is it one that's gentrifying? So we really do a deep dive into the different needs of that community. We also look at the assets, because as you're thinking about community development, you have to think about the different assets within that community. What's there or what's lacking? Are there any local banks? Are there shopping centers? Are there places where people can buy healthy food? Are there any health-related facilities, parks, a post office, a library? So we map that out and really look to see if they're not there, how can we leverage those resources to that community? What are the trends? In our most recent neighborhood plan, we discovered that the percentage of persons that were renting versus owning kind of shifted. We have now more renters than homeowners. So that means that we have a lot of people in the neighborhood that are not really establishing roots, and they're moving on. A lot we discovered was as a result of what's happening east and south of us with Fishtown, gentrifying, and also Kensington having some sections where there's a lot of fast development and market rate type of growth in those areas. Another thing that we have to look at in our environmental scan is what are the funding opportunities. It's great to envision and it's great to think about the castle on the hill, but is that realistic? We have to see what is within our world that can be doable within anywhere 5 to 10 years. Right now, the only game in town that is available for affordable housing really is low-income housing tax credits, and that's very competitive, so that's something that we have to keep in mind as we're thinking of developing rental affordable housing. Another pillar of community planning is community input. We have meetings throughout all sections of the neighborhood to make sure that we give an opportunity to people to come out and tell us how they feel about the community, what are the needs, what they like, what they don't like, and you know, how they can work with us as well, or how we can work with them. We also put together a stakeholder committee of about 20 individuals that represent civic groups, local organizations, health institutions, department heads from different city departments, elected officials as well, so that as we are presenting the different phases of the community planning process, they're able to give us feedback and also really have high-level comments as to whether we're going in the right direction or not. We also have focus groups. For example, one of the things that we heard in our recent neighborhood plan was that we didn't have enough youth activities or programs for youth. So one of the things that we did is we went directly into the schools to talk to the parents and talk to the teachers and find out what were the needs of the students to make sure that that was going to be addressed in the neighborhood plan. As I mentioned, elected official is very important. Not only do they participate in the stakeholder groups, but we also do special interviews with them to make sure that we have that buy-in, because ultimately we're going to go to them to support our funding opportunities and also the different plans or initiatives that have been outlined in the plan. And also the city departments, because they have to address different life and safety and also different components of the neighborhood infrastructure, for example. They have to pretty much be brought to the table, and so that the community can share with them what are the needs and what are the priorities. From all that, then we come up with a list of priorities that can be projects, that can be either affordable housing, commercial development, homeownership housing, programs that may be not available or that can be improved. What activities, it can be either a neighborhood festival that the community feels that is needed to build that community pride and also that sense of community within all different sectors of the neighborhood. And also one important thing is partnerships. We can't do everything by ourselves, so it's very important that we build partnerships with residents, with civic leaders, and also other organizations that do different work than we do. We focus mostly on physical development of our neighborhood, and we offer very little social services, and that was intentional because we have a lot of great organizations in our neighborhood like Congreso and Concilio that provide those services, and we're not going to replicate what they already do. What they do, they do an excellent job. Benefits of community planning. As I mentioned, you have that resident involvement and you have that buy-in. So when a project materializes, you're able to get them to support you at the zoning meetings, at the planning commission meetings, and they know from day one what the organization was planning all along. It establishes the priority based on what the residents are saying, and also with stakeholder input. One important thing, it codifies community priorities, and when I say it codifies that, is that you have it in writing and you're able to use that to leverage to get support from elected officials and from funders as well, and that's very important. When we go to the land bank to ask for land, they ask us, what you're planning to do, is it in your neighborhood plan? And pretty much they support you in acquiring that land if it's in the plan. So that's very important. It helps develop a case for support, and not only for the organization, but also for the other partner organizations that participated as part of that process. Because even though that the plan was really led by, let's say in this case, ASE, it belongs to the community, and it is a public document. Provides a roadmap to garner support, as I mentioned, invites other partners to support plan activities, and also, very important, develops a baseline to measure the community impact. So in year one, we already established the demographic and different types of indicators that pretty much says what the community was at that point in time. In year 5, we'll come back and we'll measure again based on those indicators and see if we had any progress, if we were able to change any of the demographics. For example, were we able to increase home ownership rates? Were we able to reduce the poverty rate? Were we able to increase open and green spaces? We've been able to reduce blight and things like that. And then on the tail end of the 10-year, then we do a more comprehensive measurement to be able to really articulate to our funders and to the community what we were able to accomplish.
Can I ask just a quick question? I'm sorry. Is this more of like a longitudinal community needs assessment? Is that what I'm understanding?
It is,
Okay.
but it's also not longitudinal, it's also wide. So it's all encompassing. So we don't look at one aspect of the neighborhood, we look at different aspects of the neighborhood. For example, with ours, we look at the physical environment, but we also look at the needs of families, children, educational. So we look at employment opportunities. So we're looking at all different demographics.
Over an extended period of time?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Things to consider when we're doing the neighborhood planning process. It's not for the faint of heart. It takes about a year, and it requires a lot of resources to be able to hire a consultant and also to organize the different community meetings, make sure that we're doing the proper advertising so that we get people out to the meetings as well. And some of the things to consider is stakeholder expectations. You know, one of the things that is very important is make sure that what you said that you wanted to do in the plan, you're gonna focus on that. Our plans don't sit on the shelf. So you have to make sure that you are managing those expectations. You manage the risk, because a lot of these initiatives that you are putting there, you're gonna be held accountable. And also consider what the funding opportunities may be, because it takes a long time to get a project started. For example, it takes now about 4 applications, about 4.5 years to get a project funded with low-income housing tax credits. You also have to consider your organizational capacity needs. For example, as a CDC that works a lot in physical development, I'm not gonna start doing youth programming or daycares. That's not what we do, but we will partner with those organizations to make sure that that happens. We have to look at the neighborhood infrastructure needs. Do we need a lot of sidewalks? Do we need lighting? What does the crime look like? In our neighborhood, the Conrail line was a big issue with all that shore dumping. Another thing is we have to consider is the funding environment. What are the resources that are there? What's the competition to be able to do what you want to do? For example, I want to do homeownership housing, but there's no funding available for that. And I can do market rate housing, but then I won't be able to sell it to affordable low-income families. Look at the market trends. Like for example, when we developed homeownership housing, it was during the worst economy in 2010. So that took a while for us to be able to sell that inventory. So that's very important as you're doing this neighborhood plan. Think about within the context of the time period that you're doing it. Who are your partners? And also, you have to consider fostering ongoing community support. You have to communicate to your community. You have to have those check-ins and making sure that you're communicating if there's any change in the plan activities. And explain why. You have to be transparent. As I mentioned, ASE has developed 3 10-year neighborhood plans. Our first plan was conducted in 1995. At that time, it was like many neighborhoods in Philadelphia, a lot of vacant buildings, a lot of vacant land, a lot of blight. So one of the things that we did was to stabilize that area is build rental housing, because we couldn't sell homeownership housing. No one was really going to make that investment in our neighborhoods. Housing is less complicated than commercial development, because you build housing, they will come. And if you build affordable housing, you will have a long waiting list. So that's what we focused on. We also focus in providing support through a Main Street program for our commercial corridors that are really the backbone of our community for economic development. We created our own management company, and that's to manage our portfolio of real estate, but also to create jobs and create opportunities for people that live in the neighborhood to be able to have a different opportunity that hasn't been provided to them. And we are offering careers to people. And we also focus in expanding our housing counseling program. Just some photos of we also offer an energy assistance program. And our housing counseling program has grown, and we also provide housing counseling services in the Frankfurt neighborhood. And we have an extensive credit academy that helps persons to really fix their credit, and also to build credit. We also secure a credit card by the organization. This is sampling of some of our development. These are 3 of our senior housing developments in the Fairhill and St. Hugh neighborhoods. These properties are average about 20 years, and they've remained affordable in our community. This is just an aerial view of the Caribe Development Zone. It looks very much different now. You don't see the homeownership housing or the playground that we helped refurbish with the support of Councilwoman Quinones and also the Water Department. In 2005, we did the second neighborhood plan, and there we built off what we were able to accomplish in that first plan. So we focused more on homeownership development, vacant property rehabilitation. We did that ourselves to sell the properties to low-income first-time home buyers. Attracted social service providers to create jobs and provide services, because now we have a high concentration of elderly persons living in our community, indirectly as a result of our activities. So now we are thinking about how can we help support them to stay living as long as they can in the neighborhood. We also leverage capital improvements through Centro de Oro, which is the commercial corridor, and we develop open space. This is our 50-unit homeownership housing that we developed completed in 2011. We built this project with about $15 million, and we sold the units for $90,000, move-in ready, new appliances, new construction.
How many was it?
I'm sorry?
How many properties was it?
50. To build wealth, equitable development, and also to improve housing and credit for the people that live in that community. And we also were able to provide them with down payment assistance of almost about $7,000 per property. This is just a rendering of a Centro de Oro, and also we developed a building on 5th Street that is the Asset Business and Visitor Center. We have an office for our Main Street program there. We have a gallery. We host different artists from the community for free, so they're able to showcase their talents and culture of the corridor. And just wanted to share with you that next week on May the 2nd, we're hosting our first night market. So it's really exciting, so please come and join us 6 o'clock, 5th and 8th High. Open space development, this is Jose Manuel Goyazo Playground. And brings me to our final, third Goodlands 2025 neighborhood plan. That's the one that we're implementing now. And one of the things that came about that was really a priority for our community, is affordable housing and everything else, but really was the crime and safety in our neighborhoods. This is a rendering of a trail that we envisioned and we actually created, and you will see in the photos later. But if you guys have heard about the encampments in the Kensington neighborhood, they actually started in Fairhill. And it was in our neighborhood for over 30 years. And we were able to work with Conrail and the City of Philadelphia. It was very helpful in getting the viaduct cleaned out. It was about a $5 million investment. And we got it fenced, and now what we're doing is putting back investments in that area to benefit the residents that have been almost held hostage in our community for so many years. This is just a rendering of the key issues: crime, Conrail lands, the encampments. This is how it used to look before. One of the strategies that we use to redevelop open spaces is crime prevention through environmental design. We really love to see how we should focus on designing our built environment, lighting, security control, activating public spaces, because if the space is active, there's less likely crime to occur or to just have a negative element to come into our neighborhood. Manage the landscaping to make sure that there's no obstruction for sight lines as you're watching your kids in the park. There shouldn't be any trees in the middle so that it obscures and prevents you from seeing your children. Have eyes on the street, and territorial enforcement, and we do the territorial enforcement through signage and also through public art. This particular, the picture on the top, has a sculpture that was in storage with the city for over 20 years, and it was refurbished and brought back to the neighborhood. This is a picture of during the cleanup process with Conrail. To eliminate encampments and crime and the homelessness that we had in our neighborhoods for so many years. This is community engagement folks and also my staff that went out to clean up this area, which we stabilized, and now it looks like this. Actually, we were able to install public art, again, to have that territorial enforcement and as a way for people to use the space in a more positive way. One important program that came out of this neighborhood plan was the Livability Academy, where we really focus in training folks pretty much similar to this class, but individuals from our community from all ages, from high school to senior citizens, to teach them how they can take more control of their neighborhoods, be leaders in the community, and work with us and our partners to make sure that we're continuing to rebuild our neighborhood so that everybody enjoys it. We understand that we can do it all and we need them to work with us. And this is just our strategy as to how we're going about from section to section along the Conrail line, and how we're putting back trails, open and recreational spaces, senior housing, and now we are in the plans of developing homeownership housing, so that as other areas, as I mentioned, east and south of us become gentrified, at least we have people in our neighborhood that were able to own a piece of the community and they're not displaced.
I forgot to mention that Maria is a planning commissioner, sits up here monthly, so she's really gets the importance of planning and hence all the neighborhood plans. So questions for Maria? Yes, right.
On the slideshow, you showed a visitor center. Was that visitor center in the same neighborhood where this cultural center that list is supposed to be help fund?
It's north of the Taller Puertorriqueño. The one you're mentioning is Taller Puertorriqueño Cultural Arts Center, and that's more focused around youth. They have after-school programs, and they have a youth arts program for kids in high schools to develop their art. That's one block south of that building that you saw.
Hey, but I mean, it was something that was just recently supposedly been built within the last, I don't know, 2-3 years or something like that, right?
It was built, it was completed 3 years ago.
Right. So the question was your visitor center and this facility in the same area?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I saw, yep, Nancy.
Hi, you said you started the housing and credit counseling program.
Yes.
When you started that program, did you find it hard to have the community come out to be interested in the credit housing? And how did you guys start that so that it seems like it's very
Rich, so we knew that we were going to we provide a lot of incentives in the program. You know, other than having food at events. And we build it in such a way that we want to see the commitment from the participants. So we have a group session, and for attending that group session, they get a $50 gift card. Okay? To make sure that they're committed, because they have to come out 2 Saturdays.
Okay.
So it's not just one day, it's 2 days.
Yeah.
And that's a group session, talk about, in general terms, about credit, and because it's more effective to be able to teach a group, you know, a group class. Then after that, they have the one-on-one, you know, counseling. We pull a free credit report, we talk to them individually, what they need to do and whatnot. We will take everyone. And then those persons, that you have to meet certain criteria to be able to be eligible for the secured credit card. Because if you have just recently went through a bankruptcy, there's just no way that a credit card is gonna help you.
Right.
And it's a very low amount, it's just to kind of have something on record and teach people how to use a credit card. Yeah, and the balance on the credit card is $300.
Right.
Yeah, and, you know, it's a long-term commitment. And we have been successful already where we helped 5 people achieve their dream of homeownership because they were able to improve their credit score.
Now, is that the same program where you said you help them with assistance, at $7,000? Is that the same program?
No, that was separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Just real quick, would you be willing to share your plans so we can figure out how to do it?
It's on my website.
Wonderful.
I think we were at the same event earlier, on 4th and Allegheny.
Yes.
Yeah, we were at the same event. I was wondering, with the trails, how did y'all get, Conrail to participate in the trails?
So when we started developing the neighborhood plan initially, I asked them to be in the stakeholder committee.
Okay.
And we were able to build a great relationship, because typically when you talk about Conrail, they're like the boogeyman in our neighborhood, because they were such a bad actor in that community. But one of the things that I was able to do is work with their attorney, and I didn't attack them. I said, let's leave the past in the past, let's talk about the future. How can we work together? How can you help us and make sure that we transform this community? And from that point, they are giving us money through the MPP partnership. They're leasing the land, because they say in order for us to develop the trails, they're leasing it to us for $1. So they're allowing us, they're giving us the money and they're allowing us to do it. So they have been great, and they work with the city to do the overall cleanup down in the embankment.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand like the planning hierarchy, because you mentioned a 2025 plan. The other day we learned about a 2035 plan. So I'm guessing, is your plan a subset of the 2035 plan? And also, do our local city councilmen have their own plans? I'm all about leveraging in order to get results. So how did you leverage it? Like, is the 2025 plan a combination of 2035 and the city councilman plan? Like,
So, good question. When we completed our neighborhood plan, it just so happens that the North District plan was not yet underway. So the Planning Commission used our plan as, you know, as a foundation for developing that plan because it includes our area. Another thing that we did with our neighborhood plan is we always presented to the City Planning Commission for adoption,
okay.
so that they are also supporting the initiatives that we outlined in the plan.
So from our standpoint, where are the sources at? Should we just, in order to create opportunities or take advantage of opportunities, should we look at the 2035 plan, or do we go to our CDCs for the neighborhood plan, or do we reach out to the council and say, okay, which one is the highest priority? Like,
I think it's a scale, yeah.
It's a scale.
It's kind of, if you're looking at just Fairfield and St. Hugh, you look at our plan. If
Okay.
you're looking at the whole North District plan, then you have to look at the
I got you.
2035 plan.
so for
scale.
me,
Because
if
it's
I
a-
went to a neighborhood, it would be my neighborhood
Yeah,
plan.
there's more
Right.
specific detailed recommendations in a smaller area plan, and that's
Right.
the neighborhood plan.
And I'll
So you
just
start-
Google that for my neighborhood and then find that one.
Right, because our plan is only about for 1 square
Okay.
mile.
Gotcha,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You mentioned the Business and Visitor Center as an arts gallery and as a host of some other programs. So obviously value, but in your words or in your view, what is the goal that is served by that center?
So one of the things that we use to be able to attract investment in our neighborhood is the unique cultural aspect of our community. Our neighborhood is predominantly Latino, and we has a high concentration of Latino businesses, owned businesses, and we sell a lot of goods and services, predominantly targeted to that population. That's another way to be able to promote the special culture in our neighborhood, by promoting artists from the community.
Dan was looking at me. No, I have your names down. Who else? Any hands, questions? Y'all looking real relaxed. Okay. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you.
Another round of applause.
All right, and now comes your favorite part of the evening, where you can clear off your tables, and Mary and Ariel will get you some mats. You're going to put on your developer hat, and you're going to pull out this sheet in your handouts that says Developer Hat Process Exercise.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Where's that?
It was in this pile. The pile was the this.
Oh, I see.
And you should be getting a map
Sheet by
that looks
itself,
like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yes.
All right. Teamwork makes the dream work. Okay. Everybody got your little exercise description on here. I'm going to read through this just so we're all on the same page. I'm going to give each table team here about 20-25 minutes, so it's very limited amount of time. So don't get too in the weeds. It's a big hint here. So you're going to pretend that your team, your successful developer team, looking to reinvest in your hometown of P-Town. Now this is, again, I'm being very mysterious. We're using P-named streets, but it is actually a place in Philadelphia, and I will reveal that at the end. This area has been in decline since your departure 20 years ago, purely coincidental. But you believe your success in other cities will help you sell your development project idea here. You've reviewed the recent Neighborhood Goals and Strategies Report Summary, which on the back of this sheet. So if you turn the sheet over, this is for real. So this actually came from a neighborhood plan. So you can see 10 goals to address, and you're going to only pick 3. I need you all to hear this. Do not try to do all 10 of these goals, okay? Pick 3 of these and pick them quickly, okay? So, again, a hint, your project can be in phases too, so you can lay this out as phased development. So, as a former resident of this area, you care about these neighborhood goals, but you need as a developer, you need the project to be financially viable. Each developer team, and we're going to report back by table, you're going to describe your development proposal. So, overall proposal, consider the following. You don't have to get into these details here, but please tell us if you're a nonprofit or a for-profit developer. And then just what kind of development you're proposing and where does it go. You don't have to worry about financeable so much there. So everybody see that legend on the left. This is not a zoning map. What is it?
Land use.
Land use. I mean, they're related, right? But you can see the big, I'm going to point out something. Can't see this. Okay. The brown areas. How about the big brown areas? What is that? Vacant. Yeah, so that might be, again, we're not going to worry about who owns what. You're just going to assume that you can do pretty much whatever you want. So you can buy any of this land. But the vacant land certainly might represent an opportunity. right? And I also have a little tin of markers. Please mark all over these maps. Draw them up, put street trees in there, put whatever you want on the map. We're gonna have you bring your map up front and share your proposal with the rest of the class. So have fun with it. Keep the story light, but please make some developer story about this map. Is there any questions? What your task is? No? All right. Go.
Right.
Three of these.
So we all get to read through these. I feel like some of these might make more sense for full props. I'm fine with either one. I don't think I'm no, I'm like more challenge. Let's try that trick.
Number 7.
What about shopping area? Residential.
It looks like things that are easier for sidewalks and streets, things that are more like what you see and interact with. The full service dinner restaurant, probably not another project.
Those two.
Yeah.
You know, we have a event.
With the community center, flexible space for programming on Great, I like that. And if there's anything that seems like it would be nice to try and do with that, great. But if not, it's
Can be
annual community cultural event, local community spirit, assistant restoration, develop a community center with effective collection space and multiple programs. So then that looks like that's the first part of number, the second yeah. So I feel like it kind of says in the build community spirit and then providing space for programs, whatever that is.
right, celebration. They know the yeah, like I think of Hilton Avenue. I like what you said about and then that's double duty because that's also assembling vehicles.
Maybe think of like what's usually happening.
Yeah. But we can fill in some more and that's
So
would that make sense?
too. So actually, the event being like a showcase.
We can benefit each other. It doesn't have to be one. I wonder if either of those, the event or the
Yeah, we wouldn't necessarily be
that could be done. We're looking at the second, the last two finance goal is their market. Done with something else, like if we're going to say where does it exist?
CMS.
Could we say that it's like us partnering with an organization or us partnering with the organizations? I don't know. Because that's one thing I maybe don't understand. Do we do this on our own as like a standalone thing, or is that sort of like a it out there, then by talking to the residents, and then try and cover with the group as
I almost feel like it's like, thank you. I almost feel like it's
Oh yeah, that's okay. That's good. Yeah, I'm curious if it would be something that, like, say for example that this house right here has a vacant store on it. Could we just say, okay, we're going to provide a community center? Like, do we have to create it from nothing, or is it something where we can do, all right, phase one is it's going to occupy this big storefront, and then phase two is this new construction that has a personal storage space, and then phase three is that we have our own store. Like, when you think of it in terms of like growing into that, instead of at the outset it would be possible to have like maybe a whole center for the arts that we have.
Because like you develop and then you can take the property there.
What's going to be available to lease. So, or if it's open space, it's not going to be running
All right.
Okay, I think I need to clarify something. You know, the residential high, residential low, residential medium, what do you think that means? Anyway, density, exactly. So all that yellow, low residential, what do you think that means? Single family, yeah, attached housing. So the more pink color, no, that's the mixture of the national. Boy, the color looks different up here. But when we have that high, medium, low, it just means density. So residential high will probably be mixed use, multiple families.
Yeah, so, I think,
I think we are piggybacking, we're using the neighborhood plan to sell our.
Say like there are a bunch of people that know with, but there's not enough space to work. There's not enough space to do those things in
Yeah, I was trying to first.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like Lancaster Avenue, where it's just like where anyone can come in and use the space, but you have to go back whatever time you use to use the center, and then you have to donate that to help volunteer for train people. Yeah, Lancaster Avenue. I love the model. It's free, but then you have to do something back for the space. Okay, so yeah, maybe we could find a way to fit it. Right, should we look at where it makes sense in its location?
Right.
Yeah, Brown, thank you. Yeah.
I think this
So yeah, this is probably like the highest activity are these red and yeah. So if there's going to be an event somewhere either here or here, I feel like, or nearby, like sometimes there's the little side alley things that are great, like a block party on the side alley. Yeah. So you could always do something underneath. This looks like an L. You could just say between these blocks, like from here to here, it's like a festival that happens between these 2 points. You can also, if you're looking at a side alley or a side space like this, something that's not only
And I kind of like that. And it's like as part of also
Yeah, is it financeable? How to make it work? Because I think the event is financeable. You could say like all the businesses on here, you benefit from this. Would you give us a little bit of money to help make that a success? Like that's how I would say an event. Yep, event, sponsorships, or local businesses, yeah, vendors, definitely vendors, local businesses. Or even like a big business in the city that might be like, want to see like a sponsorship, like sort of like regional sponsorship. Maybe there would be people who want to pitch in, but I feel like it wouldn't really try to keep it. If you're making money, raise your own money. And then for financial for community center, that's one where I think it is, but it's just a matter of how.
that's all I was
Yeah, so basically saying like what this is getting back for you as an investor in this program, you're going to be helping people train and build skills that you have helped them get there, and we can cause them to the way that they can so I mean that's great. I feel like you could think of it the same way that for a community center, it's like a store, or something like they were selling for that little floors or something like that. That would be it's just like a monthly rent where maybe the business has a vacant space for $3 a month, and then people can pitch in and it was like that's practice. It's not on your end, make sure to go into it. Like, it's easy for us as a nonprofit to slide into some place that's underused. Like I'm thinking of First Week where had that space under the L. Yeah, because that was like a good example of there was a naked gallery that moved in and kind of used it for a while. It was a little bit, but that to me would be the easiest. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we would say, how much department? That was their answer. Okay, does that sound interesting to use a vacant storefront? I don't know, you can't really tell because this is like vacant land.
It's good to see. I mean,
So maybe we do it that way, where it's like, let's look at the ones that are next to a vacant lot, and maybe one of these has a ground floor that they're not using, where us as a nonprofit can kind of help activate the sides. You know what I mean? Because then it would sort of be like let's look at this guy, where he's just a lone tooth in a whole wall. If there was a ground floor wall conditioner where there's a way to spill out for events and for your garden, or just sort of like a park or something for kids and families, like a great opportunity for everyone to benefit from us as a nonprofit. You may not get as much rent as you would from the next year or a chain, but you get more than you So I just chose that one because it was so isolated, but maybe the other things that make sense is like intro use before doing anything bigger. Like this one is also.
I like that.
Oh yeah, this one's innovative. Oh yeah, that one, commercial business professional. Yeah, so that one's a bigger shop.
This side too.
I'd say that one of these might be interesting, because then if we're thinking about doing anything that's like on the strip here and across from there, so it's like bring some action to it. So I would say like focus our efforts here, and maybe like look at this guy, and if they don't have an opportunity, we've got all this and this and this. So like a lot of little opportunities to do something small, like to help improve these other.
Yeah, it's great to be like telling my story and doing stuff like this is like totally rich.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't make sense to have like community Okay. And then is there a marketing?
I'm now seeing the
Think about it as far as like marketing for artists to use or learn skills.
Part of my training process. If it's rotating, like you were saying, year to year, like all their residences,
That would be
then it's flexible. By design.
that's a great
You kind of can add this to
Exactly.
kind of add this to building things like small business works to kind of being in the future needs.
That's right. Because these are artists who are
because if you're using a little space on it, like a short term, while you're there, you learn how to run a business that feeds into the support the network or whatever. That would be nice.
like the artists
And it serves as a resource for anyone else who wants to learn something to come here as like, I think that's because whoever's running this place, I'm still just using this one, would be, like they would be bored most of the day and have nothing to do. So you'd have to think that there would be some benefit to having a open, almost like hours where anyone could come by and ask questions about how to do this. That's what I think.
I mean, you could argue that that's
Like that's to be like a Starbucks.
So do we need to think about the other one, the event, the annual community cultural. We call it the town hall leaves out. I'm trying to think of a creative or a name. And at this event, what we do is we celebrate this little stretch.
Well, I think it's like sort of a whole. That's just where it lives. The reason that it works is there is a market. So I don't know what kind of sustainable.
well, let's survey and find out what we can
So it would be like a draw. So it's like creating an epicenter or some sort of like node that draws people in to feeling like it's something. I think that's great. I also think it's kind of interesting during this because there's so many little like vacant spots along this. Like if there'd be a way to somehow create, when this is shut down, like could you do, or I'm picturing Westchester. Could you have something here that sort of like spills over and feels like it's part of all of this? Like it's a messy, like kind of takes over these lots. I can see that being pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, think about like Germantown Festival. It is like a stage right there and everyone is playing. There's like castle and there's like things that just sort of are there and happening.
There's so that can be
For the event, yeah, the event, that's great. Then developing something.
Maybe it's supposed to be
So like say this right here is some sort of park space. I think it's great. It seems like it'd be like a nice quiet way to make us feel like a gateway into this, but it's not necessarily like a visiting park town. Do the green marker.
So I was starting to wonder how developers the art projects obviously become issues with the art space that we're developing. We're in the business of
Who's going to present your plan too at your table?
I'm happy to present it if you guys or if you would like to, I feel like it would make sense to talk about as a nonprofit group. We start by kind of gathering information about what like we are aware and what feels good, and get this in an active place that could have some more action going on throughout the year. So try to catalyze that by one, having a physical presence in some vacant space that makes it feel like there is a community representation and investment in something that is underutilized. Then trying to make it so that there's sort of like a crescendo during the year that builds up to this event. Where it takes over and sort of sees the neighborhood, and it's really like those two work hand in hand. And when anytime that there's sort of like a additional support service for businesses, we use that event as sort of like letting people know, like, hey, did you know that there's a space where you can come here and do this? And that gives people like a chance to bring people who may not be able to find this when it's an event.
Start with this.
It's got to be there. It's probably not a lot of options. And it just seems like Westworld. Like I went for this but I don't think there's any train lines built into this. Unless it's like far northeast where the breakers are.
Well, I'm not from that area.
Yeah, I am down in like the tiny area.
give you one more minute, because we want to hear from as many teams as possible. So we're at
Transportation, like where the buses go. Buses like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's really fun also.
Well, actually 6, yeah, so no more than 3, so.
But it's synergy, because it all goes together.
You guys go first.
But it would have to be the ground, right?
There's a CDD in Cincinnati, it's called 3 CDs.
Daniel, I need your help.
Isn't there already an
With your whistle or what? All right, I know it's ridiculously short amount of time, ridiculous. But we do want to hear from, you know, as many tables as we can. The way it's going to work, your whole team can come up front, pin your map up on the board, and whoever you appointed is going to tell your little story in a very short time, like a couple of minutes, because you can see how many, we have 8 tables here, and we want to hear from all of you. So I've designated you guys to go first.
Pressure's on.
Okay.
We're nonprofit.
We're nonprofit, we represent PCDC, which is the P-Town Community Development Corporation. And we, looking at this map, we came up with 3 projects that we would like to see forward into development. The first one was trying to get ourselves into the neighborhood. So coming back, we realized that there's a lot of vacancy happening kind of in this core part of the neighborhood, and that there was some opportunities maybe right along here where there are little standalone buildings that might have a vacant storefront. So we would go around and ask them if the vacant storefront was available for us to use as our headquarters to create a community space for active programming. And we selected this one as our favorite because it was the loneliest. It seemed like it had vacant lots on either side. We were thinking about the one that was up on the Frankfurt Pause and how that sort of had the 2 little vacant lots next to it, and maybe could have some synergy. So you want to keep going with other?
Yeah, so we sort of made up a characteristic of this neighborhood as being culturally rich and with a lot of artists living here and creative people. So we wanted to achieve the goals, or help the neighborhood accomplish the goals of getting a community center and also starting an annual cultural event that would showcase the personality and those characteristics of the neighborhood. So we would develop that one building into a gallery that would rotate, showcasing different artists and also providing some guidance on how to make a living from art and how to make that sustainable. And then the annual event every year would be a larger showcase, obviously using headquartered at that space, but then also using the street to make it a palooza. Yeah, town palooza.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Great, I think that's
Great, thank you very much. All right. Let's go on here. I'm not going to point, so whoever wants to go next. Yeah, Ebony?
So, good evening, everyone. This is our map of P-Town, and we're just going to tell you a little story about P-Town. And so we decided to address a lot of the vacancies in our neighborhood. So right down here, we decided to address number 5, which is developing 20 housing units per year with financing through a housing trust fund. But we also wanted to make that affordable/low income housing. We also noticed that a lot of the neighborhood has existing residents, so we wanted a place where we could, house some of those individuals who need low or affordable housing. And then that's off of the main street, but we still wanted to make them feel, very, very comfortable. Over here, we wanted to address this vacancy, and we wanted to combine actually 8 and 10. So we wanted to develop a community center in addition to a wellness center, which could be used interchangeably. But I envisioned that looking like the Piazza in Northern Liberty. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it. So I was like, it's right on the main street. And we could have like some open space and maybe even some shops in here that would attract individuals that either live in the community or new residents. And it would just be well lit and just look really, really fun. Have some benches out there, even some greenery, but just really want to invite residents out there, and make it a fun place to be. And then over here, with this vacancy, we also wanted to make it a business center. So since it's on the main corridor, we were pretty sure that there would be existing businesses or maybe even some vacant buildings that people may want to turn into new businesses. So what better place than to implement a business center to take advantage of resources for all of those individuals.
Yay, thank you. All right.
Volunteers. Yes, I see some movement. Marla.
We are a for-profit developer that is community conscious and will include the community in terms of giving back. We are longtime residents and from the community. We have aligned our plan to the community plan to have vacant lots, right? The commercial corridor to promote local businesses and employment opportunities to locals. There also will be an annual event that will honor and highlight the culture and characteristics within the community. Take it away.
I just say politically, I'm not a for-profit person, but doing this exercise. So, on that note, we decided to partner with a not-for-profit agency, and they have this space here, and then we wanted to then make sure we had other housing that was, I guess, more market rate. So we had mixed use housing, or mixed use for commercial and for housing. We wanted to make sure that they had an anchor tenant that would fortify the area and would come in, not a Starbucks, but something like a Starbucks. To the right of it, there is a community center. It's right by the red. No, and then the 2 other brown spots on the other side of Main Street are business areas to help fill that space in. And then we had a co-op and a garden on this side, and then another garden on the other side to help bring that into the community. And then we just worked on getting just more lower income, or what I would say is lower income mixed use housing in the space.
Great.
Thank you. Obviously, no wrong answers here. So, any next team? Great. Yes, Brenda, Nancy, Daniel.
Let's not get it over with.
supposed to be fun.
We named our development company B&D Development, Brenda Nancy Dana. And we are nonprofit developers, and we chose number 5, number 6, and number 8 to develop the 20 community housing units on some vacant land and developing a community center. So when we looked at the map and we saw how there was a lot of medium residential, we started to put our project, we did it in phases. So we started out over here with our phase 1 of our affordable housing. And even though it was close to the main street, we thought it may be good for some neighbors to be a little bit more closer to Main Street. And we decided to put in the anchors, a Aldi's, a CVS, a Wendy's, to kind of help with the housing phases. We also, and then we put our community center over here. So this would be phase 1, this would be phase 2, and this would be phase 3 of our housing project. And we wanted it to be in line with the goals of the community and with the 2035 plan. So we thought Thrive, Connect, Renew. We wanted to help support the local businesses by putting in that our commercial part right here, and just helping make the community more stable for the neighborhood. So,
Great,
thank
We met in this neighborhood when we bought houses and fixed them up. And then the three of us got together and decided to take Jumpstart Germantown. And we bought a few more of the little scattered vacant residential properties and fixed them up. But we're tired of having to go someplace else to sit down and go out to eat. We're tired of having to leave to go grocery shopping. So we would like to take the next step and attempt, and we divide it into 3 phases. We would like to attempt to redevelop this big vacant thing here. And, what are the 3 things you did?
So we chose upgrade the existing shopping areas to better meet residents' shopping needs and enhance community marketability, which each of the phases sort of attempts to address. We chose number 4 to attract a full-service sit-down restaurant, which would go in this little area. And then kind of just as an overall thing, as well as number 3 was the assemble vacant land parcels for development.
So in phase 1, we want to do a lot of research, reinforce our ideas as residents, and make sure other people are sharing those ideas of, yes, I would like to have a restaurant and a place to get some food, and find out what people would like to have, do a lot of research about this little commercial area in here. Why, I mean, otherwise, the neighborhood doesn't have a lot of vacant, but what's vacant seems to be mostly right here in this older commercial and industrial area. So we want to do a lot of research, see what might be available, who owns them, what might we be able to buy, hopefully buying that large one, and maybe trying to develop new construction that is mixed commercial on the first floor and residential on the second floor. Then, taking the lessons we hope to have learned in phase 1, we would like to look at some of these where there's older industrial buildings that might be able to be converted to things. And while we're doing phase 1, we're going to keep an eye on phase 2 and phase 3 to see if opportunities to buy land. Our community consciousness is a little self-centered. we want our neighborhood to be better for us to live in, but also then if we went back and bought a couple of more properties, they would move better. So we perceive ourselves to be community conscious, but maybe not as much as the Funtown people. Or yeah, whatever Funtown was. Yeah, you guys Funtown. But we're trying to be more than single bottom line. And we have lessons to learn, but our idea is that we live here, we want it, we want more commercial opportunities in our own neighborhood, and we're gonna try to make them happen.
Excellent, thank you guys. Who's next? Who's next? Don't all rush the stage.
We are getting close to the magic hour. Is it okay for everybody if we can hang out just a little bit longer tonight so we get everybody up front? Is that okay? I mean, it's school, we gotta go, I get it. I don't think we have that many left. Okay.
Okay, help me out. So we concentrated on 1, 3, and 7, mostly looking at the commercial corridor and how to restore that, because when we used to live here, there were a ton of services, and now there aren't. And we concentrated mostly kind of filling in this section here, trying to create that density, and then hopefully, if that works in the future, we'll do more. And 3 was the one with that upgrade existing shopping areas to better meet resident shopping needs. So we thought about what are kind of the core shopping needs, and we have a supermarket. We put a supermarket here, and then also a bank and a laundromat over here. We added, we turned this into shopping and added behind it parking in the back. That is a wonderfully illustrated ice cream cone, because it's got a little food truck near there. And we also added some housing and density near here, and senior housing, a produce store, kind of right off the train station for people when they're walking back. We put a park here, and this is, imagine this is kind of an old factory, and made that into loft apartments and a co-working space. Oh, we also built a bank and a theater. Well, we were going crazy. And so we imagined every year we wanted to, and there's a restaurant next to the park. Also, we imagined that this is an elevated train line, so we put in a lot of lighting to make this all feel more attractive and safe. And so every year we want to have a event at our park. The ice cream truck will zoom over here and help market the area and let people outside the community know about kind of the excitement going on here.
And we put our council
Oh, yes.
offices, one here and one over here.
Yeah.
So that we figured if the neighborhoods are different, we would have a council person representing each area, which would help keep the community notified to any upgrades and everything. And then we also put the senior residents there because it was a one strip and it's close to everywhere that a senior will be able to get if they are in their mobile vehicles or, just walking or whatever. So we tried to think of the everyday things in this.
Yeah, we also have
Arts theater.
Right, some sort of theater / art center.
Did you say it for-profit or nonprofit?
We're for-profit.
So that's why we're scattered and we're
got lots of
scattered
money.
over the community.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Creating a destination.
Yeah.
Excellent, I think it's just you guys, right?
I'm gonna be
A lot of
Hi, so we're a nonprofit. We decided to focus on numbers 2, 8, and 10. We wanted to build things within our community that would benefit the population that's already existing there. The questions that were asked to us is what type of development are we proposing? Most of this is already existing with the exception of our wellness and health center and a separate pharmacy, which is very close by. These are actually spaces that we got inspired by Ken as far as like reutilizing things that are within our neighborhood. Since this is residential, we assume that these industrial parcels are no longer being used as such, and so we'd like to turn them into our community center and turn this into community flex space that can be rented out, which will generate profit, so that way we can still put that back into our community and fund events and things of that nature. And our small business support center is over here, which is a little bit further away from the corridor, but perhaps will inspire some growth over here as well. And we planted lots and lots of trees. As far as, is this financeable? We think so, because we'll be able to work with all of these smaller businesses who can participate in funding for this. We have no parks in our community, so the city will hopefully help us as far as establishing something for our community center is concerned. And we're assuming that here in P-Town, we're somewhere near one of the major hospitals in Philadelphia, but our residents end up coming into the emergency rooms and taking up resources because we don't have a wellness center. So our hope is that this vacant parcel will be built up and developed by whichever hospital we are most proximate to. So now we are servicing people instead of taking away valuable resources for major emergencies, and people can just come here instead. And is there a market? Yeah, it's P-Town.
Yeah. Is that it? Yeah.
Thank
There we go. That's a talk to.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, for the last days. Decided to, this is all existing residential, and we noticed that there was no park, but there was land to be developed, so we decided to focus here in this area. And we are a nonprofit, and we're focused on number 4, 6, and 8. And we were starting with the commercial and having the attract a sit-down restaurant, which would then be along the main street. There's lighting already there, but because there was no park, the open restaurant, sit-down restaurant, we decided to keep this and develop this open park space for kids and anything that can come in, any kind of events that can take place in the park and everything. And we would develop this as time goes on in phase 2, correct? This here would be is an existing residential community home, 2 houses. So we figured maybe we would develop this in time, more additional homes in there. But we kept the focus on the restaurant, bring in the attraction, sit down, and the open space for development, and keep the existing space already there because we're not for profit. And that's our project here. Okay?
Give yourselves all a round of applause. That's hard to do in 25 minutes. And it's obvious you all told the story and you all really thought hard about this, so I really appreciate that. I just want to point out that Ken's kind of parting words were clean, green, and well lit. Those are kind of the guidelines for any kind of development, so keep that in mind. This is now marks your successful completion of the required core classes. Yay! So I think every single one of you signed up for next week's, which is designing places for everybody. We're going to have almost 30 graduates coming back to join us. So this is going to be one packed room. We're going to figure it out. We'll make room for everybody, but I'm looking forward to that. I could comment, but we're at the end of the time. I just think it was really great. You guys really thought a lot about what the differences between for-profit and non-profit could be. So please do fill out your evaluation form. Any of those questions you weren't able to ask due to lack of time. Oh my God, yeah, I was going to say that first. Well, does anybody have a guess?
Wayne Young?
No. So Main Street is Market Street, and Avenue C is 60th.
I knew it.
My mom, so I have a business on that.
Excellent, and those were actually done in the neighborhood plan, so those were real goals many years ago.
I don't know what it was. One of the colleagues was on but that's actually, that's